Hi everyone, good morning again, and yes, we're back here with our YouTube, our hourly, we hope it's an hour anyway, our hourly session, Thursday morning session. And so welcome to all of you who are able to join us, and hello to all of you who will watch us later, because we know we have lots and lots of people who watch us later. Unfortunately, I know that a lot of people work at this time of the day, and it's different times of the day all the way around the world. So I know that, you know, a lot of people can't get to see it live, but you can get to see us not live. My brain has got blank just a bit then. So if you can't manage to see us live, but you do watch it and you do have questions, or you would like a question, just email us, rosemary@rosemaryantaltea.com. We have changed the name, the YouTube name. What is it, Carolyn? I'm talking to my
Rosemary with the Spirit World.
So now you'll find us, you know, it's easy to find Rosemary with the Spirit World. We've just changed the title. We haven't changed anything else about it, just the title. So before we begin, I would like very much to say hello to and to welcome my spirit guide Gregel, who is standing to my right side. And then I would like to say to my far right, you just heard her little dulcet tones. I'd like to say good morning to Carolyn.
Good morning, Carolyn.
See, she says it every time. So that's got to be her signature, right? All right. So so today we've had a few variety of questions. We decided to change the name really because every time we try to stick to a topic, nobody wants to stick to the topic. We do get some questions which pertain to the topic that we choose, and then we seem to veer off. So we just thought, you know what, we're going to take any question that you throw at us and just have a look and see how that works out. So before we begin, I don't know if any of you have heard of Michael Bentine. I know the Brits, and certainly Brits who are my age in America, in England, will know of Michael Bentine. Michael Bentine was part of a comedy group. My brain has gone blank now. Somebody please tell me what they were called. They called themselves. But Michael Bentine was a comedian and an actor, but he was an amazing man. His father, we're going back years and years and years. I do believe that Michael Bentine has died, I think, quite some time ago. But anyway, his father was a medium, and Michael Bentine wrote a book, and the book is called A Door-Marked Summer. Now, I remember reading this years ago, and I have to tell you that Michael Bentine, he is a comedian, but he's also an intellectual. He was part of the Goons. I knew that we'd get there in the end. He was one of the Goons. Michael Bentine was a Goon, and as was oh gosh, can't think who else. A very famous actor, and Carolyn's looking it all up for me. Anyway, anyway, he's also an intellectual, and so when you read his book, when I read his book for the first time, I did struggle a bit because I am anything but an intellectual, and I did find it a little bit tough going, but for those of you, you have to order it now. It's not on the bookstore. You can't go into a bookstore and get it, but you can get it. You can actually go online and you can actually find it, because a friend of mine found it for me, Paul. My friend Paul found it for me and sent it to me. It's a fantastic read. It's about Michael Bentine's father, who was a medium, and it gives you all sorts of stuff that he used to have to go and do. This is the father, Mr. Bentine, used to have to go and do. Michael Bentine was a part of that and was able to relate all of those stories. So I know that we talk about mediums. We talk about mediums, you know, modern day mediums. I suppose I'm a modern day medium. There are many other modern day mediums, but I think it's worth, if you're really interested in this subject, and you want to know a little bit more about how it used to be, you know, pre-war maybe even, and pre the Second World War, and even back further. There are some fantastic mediums who were out there. I only know of the British ones because obviously I'm British, but Michael Bentine's father was one of them. There's another book, and it's called 40 Years a Medium. It was published 40 years a medium, and then 10 years later they republished it 50 years a medium, and that's by Estelle Roberts. And Estelle Roberts, when I was first coming into this work, she was an amazing person for me, and I loved to read her books. So, you know, so I think she's only, as far as I know, she's only written the one. You'll get it either as 40 years a medium or 50 years a medium. And then there are so many other people that, you know, that if you go back in time, so many people can tell you stories that we don't hear of those same stories today. Somehow mediumship has become, I suppose, if you like, more modernized. I don't know why that is, but mediums today do not have, or do not seem anyway, to have the same experiences that we did in my early days. For instance, I used to do rescue work and rescue lost souls, and it was very common that at least a weekly, not a daily, but at least a weekly, and maybe 2 or 3 times a week, I would go into a trance state. So I am a trance medium. You never hear of trance mediums anymore, but you know, years ago, it was that was what we did, and it worked really, really well. So the idea of what a medium is, and the idea of the talents that a medium has, have changed very much. So, you know, mediumship is not just about talking to dead people and giving messages to you. That's not, there's much, much more to it than that. And, you know, so over the next few weeks, I think we'll talk about some of those experiences that the old timers used to have. And there's you know, some of the old healers that were about, and what they used to do and what they used to experience. That it seems today that more modern day mediums do not have those same experiences, and those experiences are what really teach us. Those experiences, those old time experiences, for instance, playing with ectoplasm. I know some of you are wondering what on earth she's talking about. Playing with that ectoplasm, going into a trance state, traveling through the spirit world, you know, sort of astral traveling, all of those things. I mean, that's the way that I see to my patients who are worldwide. I mean, I can't always get to people. So astral travel is a fantastic thing. How does a person leave their body and go astral traveling and actually be able to direct themselves to, say, somebody in China who's asked for help? How do we do that? And you don't hear of the more modern day mediums doing anything of the kind, because mostly they don't know how to do it, because they weren't brought up into that way of things. I was very lucky that I had a teacher who was, you know, he was, when I met him, he was, you know, he was an older man, and the people that he had connections with were older people, and he knew all these, let's call them old timers. I suppose you could call me an old timer as well now. Oh, can you believe that? I'm an old timer now. Ooh. Anyway, but you know, there's mediumship has changed its shape now, and it's also become a very popular word. You know, when I first began, okay, somebody told the future, they were fortune tellers. Well, you know, that wouldn't do. Then it became clairvoyant. Well, clairvoyant does not mean that it doesn't mean fortune telling. But anyway, fortune tellers adopted the name of clairvoyant because it sounded better. Sounds much better than, you know, fortune tellers, we imagine gypsies on the pier, and a clairvoyant, we imagine somebody, you know, maybe a bit more knowledgeable, and so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden, I can remember when I was, you know, first came to the States, and I was on the Larry King show, and I think there was only one other well-known medium in your country. I'm trying to think of his name. I'll see if I can remember his name later. But anyway, I think there was only one other medium who'd ever been on TV, and then I went on TV. Well, then before you know it, all those people who call themselves clairvoyants were now calling themselves mediums, and now who knows what a medium is. So this is what we're going to be talking about. What actually is a medium? What can we expect from somebody who says that they're a medium? And what is the difference between a medium and a clairvoyant and a fortune teller and a seer and a what is it, a soothsayer? That they call them soothsayers. What are the differences between all of those people? So if you have a question, or you'd like to sort of pose a subject, please email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. So we are now, I finally shut up. How about that? How about that? We're now going to Carolyn, because I know we do have some people live. So we're going to go live, and we're going to be asking or taking questions right now.
We've got VCO Studios, and he says, hello, Rosemary.
Who is that? Who's that?
VCO Studios.
VCO Studios. Hello.
Hello, Rosemary. Talking about
does VCO Studios have a name? I mean,
I don't remember their first name at the moment. Oh. I know he's been on before.
All right, then. Hello.
Talking about great mediums, you might want to mention Joseph Ruloff.
Joseph Ruloff. I don't know Joseph Ruloff.
Edgar Casey.
Edgar Casey, of course. Yeah, and Harry, it'll come to me, one of the most famous healers in England. I'm having a senior moment here. I did say I was one of the old timers.
Tyler Henry. Have you heard of Tyler Henry?
Not heard of Tyler Henry, but of course, Edgar Casey. Now, I was, I'm trying to think where it is. Is it in South Carolina or somewhere? Anyway, the Edgar Casey Foundation has this amazing building. I think it's sort of somewhere, you know, south of New York, let's put it that way, on the East Coast. I think it's North or South Carolina. Somebody look it up for me and let me know. Anyway, and I actually was invited to give a workshop there, and I was there for 3 days a few years ago. It's an amazing place, and they have all these phenomenal records. And I was very fortunate because the curator at the time whispered in my ear would I like a private tour in all of the files and things that nobody ever gets to see. So he took me to the archives, and he let me touch some things. He let me read some things that will never see the light of day, a lot of them, which is really fascinating, because as much as we know about Edgar Casey, if we know this much, there's this much to know. You know, Edgar Casey was a phenomenal guy. So yes, thank you for that. And do you have a name?
It's Hubert.
Hubert.
Yes.
There you go. Thanks, Hubert, for that. All right.
All right. We had an email from Joe this morning, and he's now live with us. Joe lost his mom June 8th.
Hello, Joe.
She was sick, and she died alone at the hospital as he couldn't be there. He needs to know if she suffered, and does she know what happened? He has a feeling she is lost because he's lost without her.
All right, Joe. Well, this is one for Grey Eagle. And so I'm asking him. And we don't usually answer questions like this, because this is not a show about me giving messages and all the rest of it. But this one touched a chord with me a little bit, because I've been dealing with a friend of mine who is a mother, and her daughter's been very ill, and it did seem at some point that she might lose her daughter. And it sort of got me thinking about, you know, mothers and daughters. And of course, my own daughter and I, we have a very close relationship. And I've always been concerned that when I'm gone, because we speak at least once every day, and often 3 or 4 times every day, and I get to see my grandson at least 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes more. Thank goodness for FaceTime and all the rest of it, and Skype and all of those things. It's, you know, I worry, I'm concerned as to how my daughter will feel when I'm gone, because it is an inevitability. I am, you know, not, you know, none of us is, you know, exempt from that final, you know, leaving this earth and all the rest of it. So your email, Joe, touched me, and because the idea of not being there when, you know, when your mother passed, I know that a lot of people have this same issue, that they're not there with their loved ones when their loved ones pass, and therefore you know, they're in the dark about exactly what happened. And so because you're in the dark, what happens is we imagine all sorts of things, don't we? And we'll often imagine the worst. Was she afraid? Did she know what was happening? If she did know what was happening, You know, was she frightened? All of those things, Joe. So I get this. So this is why I'm answering this, not just for you, but for all of those people who have been in your same situation. So Grey Eagle, I've asked Grey Eagle if we can answer this question. And his question is, okay, first of all, yes, I do believe that she knew what was happening somewhat. I don't believe she was fully conscious in a physical sense, but in a spiritual sense, I do believe that she was well aware that it was her time. And I'll tell you why, Joe, because according to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who is right here with me, her angels surrounded her prior to her passing, and she saw them and she heard them. Grey Eagle tells me that the one thing that worries you is, was she afraid? And I'm to tell you, absolutely not. She was very much at peace. I don't think that she's lost, because Grey Eagle tells me she was, even as I'm talking to you now, he's describing how she was carried to her loved ones, and she was carried safely and carefully to her loved ones in the spirit world. So, you know, this is what happens for all of you out there who are worrying and concerned. I feel that, you know, when this happens to us, I think that, you know, we become completely lost. We don't quite know how to deal with it. We're lost without, I know my daughter would be lost without me. I was lost for a long time without my father. You know, this is a process of grieving. This is the process of grief. We are, if you don't mind, we are going to put you on our healing list, Joe. We're going to send you some healing to see if we can help you with that. I do feel also that she is very close by you, very close by, and will help you whenever she can. So instead of worrying about what happened to her, because you cannot change that no matter what, no matter how it happened, you can't change that fact. But what you can do is you can actually start and think more positively about that, and allow that positivity and the knowledge that our angels do come for us, they do carry us. And 99.9% of the time, this is what I hear. So I do believe that your loved ones are carried very carefully, very gently, and they're carried by their angels, and they are nurtured and taken care of. What you may well be feeling is that she is concerned for you because you are lost. So you may be feeling that concern, and she doesn't quite know how to help you. So my suggestion would be, listen very carefully. Always look for those signs, because there will be them. She'll send you signs no matter what. And have faith. Have faith that she is safe, and that one day you will see all of your loved ones again. So I hope that helps you. All right, let's have our...
We have a question from Ricky.
Hello, Ricky.
Ricky says, when you travel through the spirit world, what is it like? Can they see you? What does it look like? And do you travel through a white light to get there?
Lots of...
Yeah.
There are so many questions in there. All right. Well, each experience will differ from another experience. So it's not necessarily that you're not necessarily having the same experience each time you travel. There's a great story. I wish I could remember which book it's in now. There's a great story, and I think it might be in the Eagle and the Rose, maybe not. Anyway, it was about my very first time of acknowledging, knowing what was happening, acknowledging it, and accepting. There's a difference. You know, sometimes you can find yourself, you wake up and you find yourself, you're traveling, there's nothing you can do about it. You're not conscious of the fact. It's something that happens to you, and it's happening, you know, and you know, there's nothing much you can do about it except go with the flow, which is what I try to do. But there are times when it's a conscious decision that you make, because you, for instance, if I have a patient in Hong Kong, or if I have a patient in Australia or South Africa or wherever, I will sometimes consciously put myself in that position of traveling so that I can go to that patient and to see that patient. When I do that, of course, I'm always looking to the light, but I have Grey Eagle, so I'm always protected. And I know that I'm always protected because he's the one who's helping me and taking me. And so we're going together. It's not like I'm going all by myself. I'm going with Grey Eagle. And so it's a conscious thing. Sometimes it's so fast that you don't see anything at all. But sometimes you get to see, it's a little bit like going on the space program. You get to see, I don't know if you've ever been on one of these rides. They have them in Disney World, and they have them wherever they have them. They have these rides. You go in a rocket and they take you, through the universe, and you see moons and mountains and stuff like that. The first time I ever went on one of those rides, I did get concussion, by the way. That's after the effect. But the thing that I felt mostly when I'm on the ride was, wow, it's just like astral traveling. It's just the same as going through mountains and through, and passing different worlds, and if you like, or suns and what have you, and suns and moons and so on. I mean, it's an amazing, can freak you out a bit. It was an amazing experience. But there are also these times, and this one time when I actually consciously took a deep breath, gritted my teeth, and said to Grey Eagle, okay, I'll go, but don't take me very far. And I went. And that time, I mean, it was like 1 minute I was in bed, and the next minute I was standing just inside of, you could call it a tunnel if you like, just inside of this, what seemed like a tunnel with an arched roof. I was standing just inside and looking out. And what I saw was amazing. I describe it in the book. And I saw, it's almost like a marketplace, but it was a Victorian marketplace. I'm not going to tell you too much about it because I'd like you to read the story, and it's an amazing story. But the thing that was interesting to me, as I sort of stepped out from this tunnel, and I was walking through a marketplace, a simple marketplace, and there were people everywhere. It was a packed marketplace. It was fantastic. It was an open air food market, and I don't know what else they were selling. And there were shops on either side of the market. And I literally was walking through the people. The most amazing thing was that I knew that I was the ghost, that I was walking through. I was in a past time, in a past place. And I was walking through this time and this place and this space as a ghost, because nobody there could see me. I mean, it was as if I just was walking through the midst of them. And also walking through them, just like you would imagine a ghost walking through. There are no barriers. But at the same time as walking through and no one actually seeing me or recognizing me, having nobody even bumping into me, I was amazed because I could see the shops on either side, and I was fascinated. I was looking all around me and watching this whole thing. It was a bit like being in a Dickens movie. The old marketplace, and the women were dressed with the long dresses and the beautiful bonnets and all the rest of it. It was a phenomenal experience that I will never forget for as long as I live. But nobody, as far as I'm aware, in that crowd saw me or recognized me. I mean, believe you me, I was saying hello, and it was like, hello, hi. I was amazed. I was fascinated. I was excited. And nobody heard me or seemed to hear me. Nobody recognized me or seemed to recognize me until I came through that marketplace. I came out the other side through all of these people, and I came to a small bridge. In England, we call it a little Humpty Back bridge. It was like a little tiny one of these little bridges like this. And standing on either side of the bridge, I can only tell you that I would call them now sentinels. There were two women, very tall, dressed in grey. Both had very blonde, short hair. And as I was walking along, and I found myself walking onto the bridge, and as I walked onto the bridge, these two women stood, one on either side of me. And I remember putting my hands on the parapet of the bridge, like so, and it was solid. It wasn't a wispy nothing or another. It was hands firmly on the bridge. And then I turned to one of these guardians and I said, I'm a very polite person. I said, excuse me, could you please tell me where I am? And this one of these guardians put her hand on my wrist, scared me to death, because at this point I hadn't been touched, I hadn't been jostled, I hadn't been nudged. I just, you know, and all of a sudden the bridge is solid and real, but this hand on my wrist is totally solid. Scared the pants off me, scared me to death, because I, oh my gosh, she's real, it's real. And I mean, I knew it was, but that was a confirmation for me. And I remember her saying to me, you're on the A21. And the A21 is a road in England. Anyway, for the rest of it, you have to read the story. But every time you go astral traveling, you can go, it's different. It's like when you get in the car and you go to a new place, the experience is different. And that's what astral traveling is about. Let's have another question.
Okay, we've got Tinfoil Hatter.
Who?
Tinfoil Hatter.
And
not Hater, like I said last week.
Hello, Tinfoil Hatter, yes. A bit like that movie. What was that movie with Mel Gibson in it? Where they had the crop circles and all of that weird stuff going on, and they put tinfoil on their heads. They thought it was safe. I don't know if that's you, my darling, but anyway, go ahead.
Okay, they have a couple of questions. The first one is, was Dolores Cannon right, and are there two Earths splitting, or has that happened and we are on the good one, I hope?
I haven't a clue. Next question. I can't go there because it's not my expertise.
The sleeping prophet, he had to go into a sleep trance and often couldn't recall any of what he said. It was news to him when he'd wake up and read it or listen. He was the foremost psychic diagnostician. Yeah, helped so many people with prescribed remedies like castor oil and whatnot. So what's your opinion on, do you know about the sleeping prophet?
Not really. I don't know who the sleeping prophet is unless she gives me a name. All right, when we go into trance, when mediums go into trance, they very often don't recall. If you go into a deep trance, there are three basic, my experience, let's just clarify, my experience is that there are three basic stages of trance. You can go into a light trance where you hear everything and you see everything. You can't really participate, but you can hear and see everything that's going on. Then there's a second stage where you go into a deeper trance. You can hear everything, you can see everything, but you're a bit in and out, so you can miss some things. And then there's a deep trance where you go into a deep trance. You've no idea what's going on. Sometimes you allow yourself, as a trance medium, I allowed myself I would vacate my body and allow someone in the spirit world to use my body, and that way this person would be able to talk, use my voice box and so on and so forth. What we used to do is we used to tape all of our sessions so that I could, because when you go into deep trance, I hate it because I'm generally a curious person, you see, which is why I'm good at what I do, because I'm so curious about it all. So the idea of everybody else around me, I wake up and everybody else around me is talking about what happened and oohing and ahhing, and I know nothing. I have nothing. So we started taping our sessions so I could listen to the sessions and then participate and be involved in it that way. So this is very common. I mean, I don't think there is a sleeping prophet. I think that it's very common that people, trance mediums, do this. And they are able to talk about things in the future, and they are able to teach us different things. As a teacher myself with my class experienced me going into trance many, many, many times. And we would have people from the spirit world come and talk to the class and teach the class and give us all sorts of information and all sorts of wonderful stuff. So this is, this is not, if you told me there is a sleeping prophet or a person who calls themselves the sleeping prophet, I'm going to say to you that it's not nearly as uncommon as you think it is. And I don't believe that there is just one. I think that there are many who can do this.
This person is saying that Edgar Casey.
Well, Edgar Casey, I've never heard him. I never heard him call himself the sleeping prophet. Maybe some people will refer to him that way because, yes, Edgar Casey did used to go into a trance state. And in that trance state, he would recount, or he would be able to diagnose. I mean, he was an amazing guy, amazing guy. He would be able to diagnose, you know, what was wrong with the patient and then prescribe. Now, when I say he would, in his trance state, he would have someone from the spirit world come through to advise him, a little bit like Gregor does for me. So, and we have done this. We had a patient a few years ago. The parents came to me because they'd lost one daughter, and the daughter they had left had severe health issues. And it turned out that she was severely allergic to so many things. And I suggested that she go and see a Dr. Mumby in England. I do believe that Dr. Mumby now is in America. But anyway, he was at that time in England, and he had his own clinic, and he did all sorts of phenomenal tests. He was a phenomenal guy, phenomenal guy. And not that he was a medium, he was simply someone who was able to deal with allergies and, you know, what we're allergic to and so on and so forth. And he really was a great guy doing that. But had it not been for Gregor giving this information to these parents, again, you know, like Edgar Casey, had it not been for someone giving Edgar Casey that information, you know, those people would not have been helped. And I think it's an amazing ability that I do think more people have than we really realize. So thank you for that. Hello.
So Hubert wanted to know if you knew Char Margolis.
No.
He's referring to her as a trickster. There's a couple of videos apparently
Oh,
where she might have been debunked.
Really?
But I do think you should mention that you're not up to date with what necessarily you don't keep track of what mediums do.
No, I'm not interested.
And I think people think that you are, because we're getting a lot of questions, you know.
What do I think to this person, that person, or the other person? Well, even if I do know, I'm very loath to give my opinion because, you know, I don't know who this lady is. Carolyn just showed me a picture. Char Margolis. Right. I don't know her. I don't know anything about her. I do know, and I will speak for myself here. I mean, Penn and Teller think I'm the biggest fake on the planet. You can go still on YouTube or on any, you can find their comments. They don't know me. They've not spent, well, neither, I've only seen one of them on a TV show for all of about 5 minutes. But people decide before they've even met you that you're a fake because they simply don't believe that what you do is possible. So, I mean, I did a Larry King show. And if any of you want to watch a really, really great show about someone debunking a medium or trying to debunk a medium, you've got to go on the Larry King show. I'm trying to think who that guy is. Oh, he calls himself the Great...
We just read an article.
The Great somebody or another. Anyway, you can look it up on YouTube. The Great.
Yeah, he just got out of jail.
He did?
He did, remember? Yes, because he lives in Florida now.
Oh, that's funny.
There was an article about it.
Anyway, he was a magician originally, and now he's offering $1 million to anybody who can prove that, you know, mediums exist and they're real and all the rest of it, except I was able to prove with Larry King on the Larry King show that I want to say the Great Houdini's in my head because he's not Houdini.
No.
I can't think who he is. Anyway,
James Randi.
He calls himself the Great James Randi. I've forgotten he was in prison. Or
he was.
What for? Cheating and lying.
Yes.
The same thing he was accusing me of doing. But if you really want to see a fun show, go to YouTube and look, you know, Larry King, Rosemary Altea, and James Randi, because we really nail him to the floor. So there are people like that who will debunk you, and even if they don't know you. So I'm not going to debunk anyone, and I'm not going to, I don't know Shah, I don't know her, and don't ask me about any of the others, because I'm going to be nice about everyone, because if they're cheats, there's nothing I can do about it. Sometimes people knowingly cheat, and sometimes people really do believe that they have a gift. They're the most dangerous of all, because they're the ones who really do not necessarily have a gift, but they believe that they do, and that, you know, the charlatans are easy to spot. So Carolyn's right. I don't care about other people. Really, I don't. I only care about myself. However, when I hear of or see someone who takes advantage of other people, especially people who have lost their children, then I care. And then I get really riled up. And then I sort of, then I've been known to curse from time to time, because I think that people who are cheats and charlatans should be shot, because I think they really should be shot. And I know that there are certain people out there who believe the same thing of me. I mean, that's fine, but you can't stop people thinking the worst. And as Carolyn says, I will not make a comment about other people in my line of work, because it would be, number one, very unprofessional of me. Number two, I don't know them and I've not had experience of them. So it would be very wrong of me to make a judgment of anybody in those circumstances.
You are a classy lady.
Oh,
well, all right.
Thank you.
We have Martha who asks.
I'm a classy lady. Yeah, I've been told that before, actually, but go ahead. Thank you, though. Thank you. Yeah, next one. Next question.
Martha says, I was with 3 members of my family. I helped them cross over. Were they aware even though they were not physically aware?
Oh, I would say, Martha, yes, without a doubt, because I've actually been with people sort of on the other side of things, if you like. It's difficult to describe this, but I've been able to go with people as they've crossed. I've seen people with their angels. I've been taken, I call this, if you read my books, there's a phrase I use quite often, down and back and through the hole. And it's the only way I can describe it. I know it's not very scientific, down and back and through the hole. What does that mean? Well, it means that sometimes, especially if I'm giving a consultation to somebody, for instance, or if I'm doing a workshop, and somebody comes through from the spirit world and they need me to see really, really clearly, just as I think it was Joe this morning asked us, I think sometimes you need to see really, really clearly exactly what happened in order to be able to tell somebody. And then I will find myself moving. Now, on a physical sense, you will see me standing in front of you. There's an occasion in Canada where I gave a message to a man. Now, there was an audience of 2,000 or 3,000 people, and they all saw me, and I was talking to them just as you see me and I'm talking to you. But behind the scenes, let's say, there was this part of me that was moving back, down and back and through, and I call it through the hole, but let's say it's like through a tunnel, if you like, or through that space that separates time. So I'm going back in time, and I find myself at the scene of the accident. Now, I literally find myself, I'm not just looking sort of from a physical point of view. In every sense, in every spiritual sense, I'm standing at the scene of an accident, or I'm standing by somebody's hospital bed, or I'm standing at that point where somebody's about to leave or being, taken. And in this particular instance I'm talking about in Canada, where there were 3,000 people, nobody saw me move, but I was moving down and back and through the hole to the place where this fire was raging. And I found myself in this house, and I mean in the house. I could feel the heat, I could smell the smoke, and I could see this man who in the audience who was in front of me, but I could see him in this house racing and racing and racing around the house, trying to save his children. And there were 4 children in that house. And I watched him. He's running, running, running. And I saw him put his hand on the door handle of the door. Of course, it was boiling hot, but I saw him put his hand on it anyway, and he went to turn it. And I hear a voice clearly saying to him, no. He told me later that he also heard that voice. And he took his hand off the door and started racing further along the house. And I turned to where the voice had come from, and there was an angel standing there. And in her arms, she had 2 children, 2 tiny children. And these were the children who were in that room that she told him he couldn't go into. And I saw these two small children, they were in her arms. And I looked at her and my heart was breaking for the pain of this man. And she looked at me and she said, this angel looked at me and said, 2 will be saved and 2 will come with me. 2 will survive, rather. 2 will survive and these two will come with me. And it was heartbreaking. There was nothing I could do about it. It was set in stone. It was their time. These children were fine. They were in the arms of this angel and they were fine. So I'm able to see things perhaps that other people don't see. And I'm also able to be sometimes, even going back in time, in the presence of exactly what is happening at the time of something happening. And it's an amazing thing. I forgot the question in there because I'm sort of chattering away here about this story, and it's sort of, I'm remembering.
Martha was asking if, even though the physical body wasn't awake when they were passing over, were they aware that they
yes,
were
because Martha, this is another thing that I believe. I believe that prior to our passing, all of us have warnings. We're all of us prepared in one way or another. Somehow we're prepared in one way or another. And we may not know this is a time that we're going to die, but we may have this feeling that something is going to change, something is going to happen with us. I remember a lovely lady coming to see me one time. She was an older lady, and I remember she was lonely, she was sad, and I remember saying to her, and I saw her angel, and I saw this incredible bright light, and I remember saying to her, your life is going to turn around, it's going to be so different than it ever was before. Something is going to happen and your life is going to completely turn around, and instead of being in the dark and being sad and depressed, you're going to be standing in the light and you're going to be smiling and everything is going to be wonderful. And she went off so joyful with that. Now, her son called me a couple of weeks or so later to remind me his mother had gone home and told him this exact thing. And he was overjoyed for her because it was something that she could look forward to. This lady died in her sleep very peacefully. Now, where was she? She was in the light. She was smiling. She was joyful. Something happened and everything in her life turned around and was so much better and so much more joyful and so much more beautiful. And her son, I remember him coming to see me and thanking me for giving his mother this incredible, incredible feeling that, that she was cared for. So when we pass, even though on a physical level we're totally not conscious, we know, and we often hear our loved ones, we'll often hear them crying, we'll often hear them begging, don't go, don't go. But in that moment, there's nothing we can do. We have to, because it's determined. God determines when it's our time to go home. Okay.
Got another comment.
Yes.
The spirit world must be 1,000,000 times more crowded than this visible world, right?
I get that all the time. Who's asking this question?
Tinfoil hatter.
Tinfoil hatter. Oh, you're a gem.
And all one last question from them, too.
All right. Well, let me just answer this one. People say this to me all the time, right? But let me put it this way to you, Tinfoil. I think I should call you just Tinny, just for sure, right? Don't you think? Tinny sounds a good name? Right. All right, Tinny. So you have to remember, compared to the universe, if you can look through the most powerful microscope ever, you'll see our world, which is the size of a grain of rice, maybe not even that big, maybe a grain of sand. It's teeny. Our world with all these people, and if you look at it and you see the actual size of it compared to the universe, you couldn't possibly imagine the millions of people that are on this planet sitting on this little tiny grain of rice. Well, in comparison to our little tiny grain of rice, the universe is huge. And there are, not only is there one universe, I do believe that there are many universes out there. So you mustn't ever worry about it being overcrowded. There's plenty of room for all of us. You said you got another? Come on, Tinny,
yes.
let's have the next question then.
They're wanting to know, if you wanted to, could you find Princess Diana or George Harrison, and would they talk to you?
Yeah,
that's a good question. I think a lot of people think that when I'm here during, working for you during the day, that I see you have conversations with, a lot of people who have maybe passed.
Which you do.
Well, yes, but not you don't let me know, right?
But not all day, every day.
Right.
Well,
like Elvis doesn't drop in and have lunch with us that I know of.
I have seen Elvis, and I've spoken to Elvis, actually. I know I sound crazy when I say that, because every medium I've ever known is so I've seen Elvis. But I really did see Elvis, and completely shocked myself. But it turned out that there was a very good reason why I saw Elvis, and it was he had a message to impart to someone about a very special guitar of his. So there's a very good reason. So it doesn't just, people don't just pop up like Richard Harris, was it?
George Harris.
George Harris. Oh, George Harrison. George Harrison, the Beatles guys. People don't just pop up just because, but I have actually spoken to Princess Diana. Not going to go into details, because when people come to see me for consultations, they are private, which means if you came to me for a consultation and you wanted to tell the world about it afterwards, you can do just that. You will not hear me talk about it to anyone. That's it. When I tell my stories, I always change the names. I'll always sometimes change the location, because it's private. But yes, I mean, of course, I've seen many movie stars, and I've seen and spoken to many, I should say, and spoken to movie stars and scientists and many famous people. One or two infamous people, actually, as well. I mean, I had a confrontation, 2 or 3 actually, with probably he's known as the world's leading serial killer. Who would want that? That was not pleasant, I have to say. You could read that book you could read that story in the book A Matter of Life and Death. It's a true story, and the guy's name is Charles Brandt. If you want to look him up, in the FBI files, you can look him up and see what an awful person he was. So, but when I see people, famous, infamous, for whatever reason they might be well known or so on, there's a reason. Usually there's a reason. It might be that their family have come to me and asked for a consultation, and then they're not famous people to them, they're just their family. They might be famous to me, but I'm not overawed by that. So I've seen many people in many circumstances, many very ordinary everyday people, and then many who have been famous, infamous, whatever you want to call it. But my lips are sealed, because whenever I see these people, it's private. Now, if I'm in a hall, and I'm, then maybe there's even if there's only 20 people, or if there's 100 people, or if there's 2,000 or 3,000 people, whatever it is that there are, I mean, obviously the messages I'm giving, not so private, but that person chose to be there, chose to accept the message from me, so I can't do anything about that. But if somebody else came up to me afterwards and said, what else did you see with that person? That's for me to know, and not for me to tell.
But at no point do we sit around here, or you sit around here going, hey, I wonder what George Harrison's doing today. Let me summon them.
Well, actually, my life is so busy,
right.
so full of stuff. Who cares? I mean, I hope he has a fabulous life. I hope he's happy where he is. But do I care what he's doing every minute of the day? I'm not one of these people who follows the Kardashians or does the, I'm not on my iPhone every second. I'm not texting every minute. I mean, I know that I am starting to put more stuff on Facebook because I know people love it. But I always think to myself, why do people want to see me making apricot tartlets? Really? I mean, why? You know, why do people want to see me making cookies? But people like it. I'm happy that you like it. I'm happy to do it. But you know, I'm sure you really don't want to see me in my daily, you know, you don't want to know whether I'm taking a shower or a bath, do you? You do. Carol says, yeah, all right, well, I take showers then. How's that, right? I mean, but, you know, I can't live my life vicariously through other people. I have a life and it's a full life. And the people you find who are following other people, like, you know, continually, fanatically following other people and other people's lives, they're the people I would say, darlings, get a life. You know, get a life of your own that you can perhaps share with other people. Get a life that's full of your own. All right.
We've got a question from Albertine, who lives in the Netherlands.
Hello, Albertine.
She lives in an area where there's a lot of old castles, just as a footnote. She says, a young woman came into my shop today and bought some paintings. She said her father had killed himself 12 years ago. I felt she had an energy around her. Was her father with her?
Well, I don't know, darling, because I wasn't there. I mean, are you saying that you're psychic? Are you saying that you can sense things and sense energy? And you may well be sensing those things. You may be, you know, what we call sensitive, particularly sensitive to those things. And if you sensed in that moment in time that her father was with her, who am I to say that he wasn't? Again, you know, I don't know you, so I don't know your abilities. What I would say to you and all of you who have these senses, always pay attention. Don't dismiss it. Don't, you know, pay attention to what you're feeling. Pay attention to what you're sensing. Pay attention to those, you know, to those small pieces of knowledge. Pay attention to that feeling of deja vu. You know, pay attention to those things because they often mean something. And when you do pay attention, what you're actually doing in that moment in time is you're listening to your soul, and you're listening to the heartbeat of your soul. And your soul is trying always, every day, every minute of every day, your soul is always trying to talk to you, trying to help you, trying to guide you, trying to steer you. And your soul needs to be fed, and the way we feed our soul is to recognize it and to acknowledge it and to talk to it and to be a part of and to be together with our soul. Not only, you know, living our lives, but living our lives in a spiritual way.
One last question we have time for.
Let's go. Oh, are we out?
Yes,
How can we be out? We're not out of time.
Almost,
We are.
and that's 5 minutes slow.
Yeah,
so.
okay then, right then.
Kayla asks.
Hello, Kayla.
Once you pass over to the spirit world, do you still worry, or do you have a greater understanding and therefore have no emotions?
This is a great question. So I'm going to spend perhaps a bit longer than we really might have, because people think that, you know, many people think that once we die, we sit on a cloud or something, or we're with our angels or wherever it is, and we have no concerns and no worries. You know, that's saying that, you know, we're at peace. All right. But that's not necessarily true. We're at peace in one way because we're home. We're with our loved ones and our family who care about us. We're with our angels who care about us. And as we're there, we're learning and we're growing and we're gaining more knowledge. However, we're also connected very much still to our families who are still on this earth plane. And I'll give you, for example, here, when it is my turn to go, I can assure you, as I assure my daughter, I'm watching. I'm watching. I'm not going anywhere. I'm sort of, you know, I'll do my thing and enjoy myself, and I hopefully learn as I'm going along. But I will also be continuing to visit my daughter and my grandson because I love them, and that's, you know, that's what we do. I'm the mother. I'm always going to be the mother, and I'm always going to be the grandmother. So I will always be there paying attention to them. Now, when they're in trouble, or if I see my daughter crying or brokenhearted or whatever, am I going to calmly say with no emotion whatsoever, oh, it's going to be okay? Of course I'm not. I'm going to be heartbroken for her. Even though I might know that things will be okay in the end, that things will work out in the end, even though I might know that, my heart will still break for my child having to go through the pain of that. My heart will still break. I will still have those emotions. I will still have those feelings. Likewise, when she experiences joy, happiness, love, whatever she experiences, I'm going to be a part of that as well. Am I going to sit back emotionless? Not likely. No way. And I see this with people in the spirit world all the time. I had recently, just this week, I had a consultation with a lady whose mother was so concerned for her daughter because her daughter was in a bit of a situation that the mother had actually landed her in. So she felt responsible. I've never known anyone in the spirit world who has not been affected by pain or hurt or by joy and happiness. So even though we pass, we still can experience those things. We're still part of our families who are on this earth plane. We're still very much involved with them, and we still want the very best for them. And even though, yes, we may well know that this is going to be for a short time, or this too will pass and everything will be okay, it doesn't mean that while my child would be going through that I will be indifferent to the hurt and the pain that she's experiencing. Of course not. And on that note, do we have anything else very quickly?
Peggy says she's headed to New York for a couple of weeks.
Oh, hi, Peggy. Hi. We were in your neighborhood on Sunday. We almost called you to pop in on you to say hello, but then we didn't. I have fun in New York. I'm going to New York myself in 3 weeks, I think it is now, to be with my darling daughter and my darling boy, my little darling boy. I love him so much. All right. So if you need to know any more about us, email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Meetup. You can find us on YouTube. Anywhere else they can find us. I think that's it for now. When I go to New York, my daughter's going to teach me how to use Instagram because I've no idea whatsoever. But we're going to do Instagram stuff as well. So if you're an Instagram person, watch out for that. Remember, I'm not a technological person. So anyway. All right, so if you have a question, if you have a live question, or if you just want to share an experience with us, please feel free. Email us again, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. And until next week, in the meantime, please, 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 please have a very, very, very blessed day.